The world is hurting right now, and it's time to rise up. As we lift ourselves up in body, mind, and spirit, we can reach out to others and be a light in a sea of darkness. Welcome to the Movement for Global Health with your host, Dr. Mary Zennett.
Our world is hurting right now. The pandemic has taken its toll. So how do we pick up the pieces? We can start with health. Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Zennett, psychiatrist of 35 years, strong advocate for healthy lifestyle, and your host on this podcast, The Movement for Global Health. I am so excited today to introduce to you my friend and guest, Greer Michelle, nurse for over 20 years, health coach for over 10 years. She is passionate about wellness. Greer, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary. And I am just feel so honored to be here with you today. And I know you are such a strong advocate for health for others. I'm passionate as well, like you said. There's so much that we can do to make sure that we stay on top of our health in the prevention arena. And I'm just very thankful to be here today.
Tell our listeners how important health really is.
Wow, that's a really important question. And I think it's much more important than we realize. We can't stress enough in prevention and in health education and as providers how important our health is. And I think sadly, sometimes we learn that the hard way once we've lost our health. I know many moms feel perpetually tired and they think this is just normal because their friends are tired too. But the truth of the matter is if you get past those early child rearing years, where your kids have started sleeping better and you're still tired all the time, that's an issue that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be explored further with their healthcare provider, and they can seek out a skilled health coach that is knowledgeable about helping them discover those root causes and address those so that they can improve their energy level and their health. If you leave fatigue unaddressed long-term, it is likely in 10 years that they will develop a health condition. It is a warning sign that something is going on. It's not normal. So that's one thing that I really want to impress upon listeners.
And I agree with you completely. This idea of looking ahead. See, we don't do that. Our system is so reactive, but these symptoms start early, long before we can see them. And we're going to be talking a lot more about this. So Greer, tell us a little bit about what you do as a health coach and as a nurse for 20 years.
Okay, so my career in nursing has focused on mostly the wellness and prevention side of things. I've known since I was a teenager that I wanted to help people and motivate them to get healthy. So that's really where I focused most of my experience. I also worked as a nurse in case management for children with special health needs. With the health coaching, I go and do employee wellness talks. I give one-on-one coaching to help people prevent conditions from starting. So I love to work with those moms that are relying on caffeine all day to keep them going, because it really doesn't have to be that way. And it shouldn't be. A cup or two of coffee in the morning, great, that's okay. But if you're really relying on something like that for your energy, there are things that we can address. So some of the other things that I do, and I also worked in postpartum mom baby nursing as well. So I have that experience, with the newly birthed and the moms. And so that's another passion of mine as far as wellness and, guiding them. I have a consultation part of my practice as well, where I can speak to, moms that are raising a child who maybe has a diagnosis that they, something that they need to help them overcome and maybe need a lot of therapies. I can help guide them with some things with that. I know we're going to talk about it a little further, but I've raised a child with special health needs very successfully, and they're doing very well. And so I have a number of things that I like to help with, and those are some of them. If someone wants to lose 20 to 30 pounds, they can come to me as well, because we know that that's going to greatly prevent health conditions from starting. But I wanted to say too, back to your original question, that, there's a reason they say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first to be able to help someone else. And if we don't take care of our health, if we develop a serious health condition, we can't do what we normally do to the best of our ability. We're not as able to care for our family like we used to, at work. If we work outside of the home or work from home, we don't have as much. I think what I've discovered that, most health conditions really impact is your energy level and what you're able to bring to what you do. And so I just want to emphasize how important it is for us to take care of our health so that we can give to the ones who need and love us.
Absolutely. And you very successfully raised a child with autism. And I would love for you to share with the audience some of the things that really helped the most.
Okay. Yes, that's very true. And my child was diagnosed very early on. So I want to emphasize that early detection is so important. So if you notice things like they're sitting in a W position with their legs, or they're obsessively stacking items, or they will only point at something, but they don't speak when they're supposed to. Even for boys, these are major red flags. I know we've kind of accepted that, boys talk a little later, and that may be somewhat true, but if it's really delayed, there's something that needs to be evaluated. So that early detection and recognizing symptoms, and I think that that's why he's been so successful, is that we picked up on it 2.5 years. And so started getting evaluated right away and early testing. And the things that helped the most were OT, speech therapy, physical therapy. And he had a really highly skilled occupational therapist that understood autism at a deeper level. There were really some underlying hidden things going on with the nervous system or neurologically that we would have never picked up on. And so that's another thing, bring to the attention of providers who diagnose. For my child, they had a lot of central muscle weakness. And what was happening is that the nervous system was miscommunicating with the muscles that typically do the actions in the body. What was happening, the nervous system was communicating to the accessory or smaller helper muscles. So they were using the smaller muscles to do the actions like breathing or balancing, standing. They didn't have that core muscle strength because there was no communication to those muscles. So things like breathing and balancing were tiring because those tiny muscles aren't equipped to handle all of that, if that makes sense.
Is it safe to say you wish providers really understood this about autism?
Very much so. I understand that every child with autism is different. At the same time, we need to be aware and look for these other underlying things that can be going on. So a really, hopefully detailed neurological evaluation or consultation with the highly skilled occupational therapist that understands, what's going on
Right.
under the surface that we don't see. So this really highly, just so bright OT, she discovered this with him. I didn't know what was going on. He had trouble with coordinating breathing, chewing, and swallowing. There was always drooling. And now that they're older, they were able to tell me, this is why I was afraid to eat. I was afraid I would choke.
Oh.
So they ate simple foods that they were comfortable eating to prevent that. So there was a fear there, and it was a realistic, logical fear to have if there's not that coordination there for those actions. That's something that happens for us automatically. But there is potential, for a child with autism that there might be some miscommunication there that's factoring into not wanting to try new foods. I do know that sometimes it's just a sensory issue. I just want to make people aware that there's potential for another possible cause behind that.
So what would you say to a mom whose child has just been diagnosed with autism?
I would say never give up. That therapy can take many, many years. They need multiple therapies, and that there will be times where there's no progress. There could be weeks, there could be a month where you see no change or just the slightest improvement, and that is normal.
Wow.
For them in therapy. And then they can have a breakthrough that, for a mom who's dealing with a child who has such challenges, let that be your hope. When you see any progress, that that you're doing everything you can by providing these therapies for them long term, and that absolutely what we believe of them and in them, they will achieve. Given the right supports, the right therapies. I didn't mention one thing that really helped for the ones that have autism that do have some coordination and balance issues. For my child, it was the occupational therapist who also combined using a balance board that you stand on. So it's like a round ball with a little platform, and they stand on there and they teeter-totter, standing. And she did listening therapy at the same time with a certain tempo of music that helped to rewire the communication from his nervous system to the appropriate muscles, which would be, our muscles that are supposed to do the work. So,
So to a mom who's been actively working with her child for even a year and not seeing a lot of progress, what would you say?
Just keep going. It's that important. You will have breakthroughs. There will be improvement. And I will admit, there were days where it was very, very emotionally hard to sit and watch no progress. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's tough. It really is. But I'm so grateful that we never stopped and we kept going. I will say too, though, that moms still need to really advocate to make sure that their child continues to get the therapies that they need. And that involves too being able to communicate with the different types of providers. So the different therapists, the OT, the PT, the speech therapist, the doctor, so that each one knows what's going on and where there have been improvements and where there needs to be work, because there is some overlap of what each of those therapists are able to help with each specific thing that is going on with your child. They each have their part. And so that communication really needs to be there. So that's one of the things that I'm offering as part of my coaching is consultation, so that if a parent needs help with that, I'd love to help them advocate for their child, help those communications with those different providers, just having that background and the experience of raising a child successfully through this and having been a case manager. I think it allows for a really good opportunity to help support parents in getting their child what they need.
I agree with you. And in healthcare, as well as we work in our silos. Everybody's is a specialist in those little areas. But that communication, it's almost a metaphor for what's going on with the child, is those connections are not there. So as the parent, you are really the one helping to bridge and make the connections from one provider to the other, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, the physical therapist. You're the bridge. So what you, Greer, can provide for parents is empowerment, helping to teach them how to become that bridge and that advocate for their child.
Absolutely. And I think, a lot of moms probably instinctually do some of that because they want to see their child succeed. And I think moms can get really passionate about that. And I think that's great. But I think sometimes it can also get in the way of the communication, because there's a frustration level there often. And I'm very comfortable as far as de-escalating that, helping someone feel more comfortable discussing the topic, and then having the insight, as both a nurse and raising a child with the condition, that I'm able to suggest things that they can talk to them about too, that they may not have thought of. I think moms are usually very intimately aware of what's going on with their child, but I think you bring in that medical background and having raised someone and just bridge all that together to help support them and having a better experience and outcome for their child.
Absolutely. So. What therapies do you think helped your child the most?
I think every child is so different. I think most moms of children with autism will tell you every child is different. For mine specifically, it doesn't mean it would be what would work for someone else's child, but I would say the balancing that she did on the balancing board with the listening therapy, that was monumental in helping my child. I don't want to portray that they're perfect. They had a great outcome. They're doing very well, but there's a few little things that you would still notice. Not typical autism features, those are gone. The speech is good, all those things, but there's a little bit of something you may notice, but overall they're successful and doing very well, have great relationships and communication with others. And, kids flock to them because they're a leader. And I think part of that, can be a real benefit to participating in these therapies is that the child learns to be devoted and driven to want to do better. I think it develops a real resiliency in the child. So I think we can find those other benefits that they gain from their dedication. And as a mom, we support them in doing that. And but I would say the listening therapy, ABA therapy helped more with the social aspect. And then the speech pathology was really important because of the swallowing issues that they had. So they were able to help with that and with articulation as well, because there was, and I think this is probably pretty typical of other children with autism, is that in their speech, their rate of speech can be really fast sometimes, and they run the words together so that they're difficult to understand. So the speech therapist and pathologist were able to help with that part of it, and with the articulation as well. And I do want to mention for moms out there that even though they may graduate from speech therapy at some point, that they may need it again later, because as their mouth grows and develops, that can impact your ability to understand them. Or their articulation. So anticipate that there's potential they may need another, handful of sessions or more of speech therapy down the road as their mouth changes. So
yes, Greer, this is such important information. And I understand you do health coaching, speaking, consulting, and educating. How can parents, caregivers, and providers reach you?
absolutely. So I've started my own company. I'm in the process of launching everything, but they can find me at www.myformulaforhealthcoach.com. They're able to email me through the site and set up a free discovery call. I'm happy to talk to providers, parents, anyone who's wanting to improve their health or prevent a health condition. So
again, the website.
www.myformulaforhealthcoach.com.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right, so that is our show for today. And I want to express my heartfelt thanks to Greer Michelle. She has provided enlightenment, insights, and inspiration. And continue to tune in next week, learn more about how you can be a part of this movement for global health. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary.